Subscribe to our e-newsletter. City of Stirling leisure centres in Inglewood, Scarborough and Balga have world-class facilities including indoor and outdoor pools, a comprehensive group fitness timetable and learn to swim programs for babies through to adults. You can swim all year round with our perfectly heated pools. For further information, visit www.stirling.wa.gov.au/recreation or subscribe to our e-newsletter. City of Stirling leisure centres in Inglewood, Scarborough and Balga have world-class facilities including indoor and outdoor pools, a comprehensive group fitness timetable and learn to swim programs for babies through to adults. You can swim all year round with our perfectly heated pools. For further information, visit www.stirling.wa.gov.au/recreation or subscribe to our e-newsletter. City of Stirling leisure centres in Inglewood, Scarborough and Balga have world-class facilities including indoor and outdoor pools, a comprehensive group fitness timetable and learn to swim programs for babies through to adults. You can swim all year round with our perfectly heated pools. For further information, visit www.stirling.wa.gov.au/recreation or subscribe to our e-newsletter. City of Stirling leisure centres in Inglewood, Scarborough and Balga have world-class facilities including indoor and outdoor pools, a comprehensive group fitness timetable and learn to swim programs for babies through to adults. You can swim all year round with our perfectly heated pools. For further information, visit www.stirling.wa.gov.au/recreation or subscribe to our e-newsletter. City of Stirling leisure centres in Inglewood, Scarborough and Balga have world-class facilities including indoor and outdoor pools, a comprehensive group fitness timetable and learn to swim programs for babies through to adults. You can swim all year round with our perfectly heated pools. For further information, visit www.stirling.wa.gov.au/recreation or subscribe to our e-newsletter. City of Stirling leisure centres in Inglewood, Scarborough and Balga have world-class facilities including indoor and outdoor pools, a comprehensive group fitness timetable and learn to swim programs for babies through to adults. You can swim all year round with our perfectly heated pools. For further information, visit www.stirling.wa.gov.au/recreation or subscribe to our e-newsletter. City of Stirling leisure centres in Inglewood, Scarborough and Balga have world-class facilities including indoor and outdoor pools, a comprehensive group fitness timetable and learn to swim programs for babies through to adults. You can swim all year round with our perfectly heated pools. For further information, visit www.stirling.wa.gov.au/recreation or subscribe to our e-newsletter.
Okay, thank you. If everyone can take their seats. Can I please ask Councillor Caddy and for us to stand to read out the opening prayer?
Almighty God, we ask you to guide us in all our discussions, to show goodness, honesty, understanding and wisdom in all that we undertake to do. May we respect each other's views at all times, and may we ask all of this in your name. Amen.
Amen. And Councillor Spagnolo, if you can please read the acknowledgement to country.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. On behalf of councillors, we'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land, the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, on which this meeting is taking place, and show our respect for elders, past, present and emerging.
Thank you. Without prior approval, any recording of this meeting is prohibited. No action should be taken on any resolution of council prior to written advice from the city being received. Ladies and gentlemen, I now declare the council meeting of the 12th of October 2021 open at 7:02 p.m. Apologies, I have nil. Approved leave of... Sorry? There's an approved leave of absence. Approved leave of absences, I have Mayor Mark Irwin. For disclosures of interest, I have Councillor Chris Hatton has declared an impartial interest in item 14.1 as he lives nearby the reserve. Councillors, are there any other disclosures of interest? Councillor Farrelly?
It will, in impartiality interest to item 13.1, as I live near that beach.
Thank you, Councillor Farrelly. Can you please complete the paperwork and pass it over to the officers? Are there any other disclosures of interest? No indication? Thank you. Petitions. There have been 2 petitions on my agenda. There's an e-petition request for legal opinion of grounds for judicial review of Karrinyup West JDAP approval. Is there anyone on the floor who's presenting that? Councillor Lagan.
Do you want me to read them out, Madam Acting Mayor?
Yes, or summarise,
Okay.
either or.
Yep, I'll summarise them. So there are 2 petitions. One, a petition re childcare premises 159 Hale Road and 25 Unwin Avenue, Wembley Downs, DA 21/0729. The below petition has 100 verified signatures. We respectfully request that the City of Stirling and the City of Stirling Council appeal the JDAP decision of the 17th September 2021 to the State Administration Tribunal before the deadline close of 14th of the 10th. This request is further to advice obtained from the SAT and in addition to legal advice. This is not an inquiry about third-party appeal rights. Second e-petition is request for legal opinion on grounds of judicial review of Karrinyup West JDAP approval. The following petition contains 577 verified petitions and has been received by the City. Basically, that is a petition requesting legal advice on the decision by the panel.
Thank you, Councillor Lagan. Are there any other unverified petitions? Councillor Ree?
Yes, thank you. I'd like to read out 2, please. One is the following object to any amendment to the DA 17, 24, 35 and 4 of Traffic Close Stirling. For the following reasons, they would like to reject any proposed amendment to the approved DA 17, 24, 35, which allows access to development via Traffic Close. No access via traffic was explicitly outlined in the planning documents and a condition to the approval of this development. Number 2, create a permanent barrier between the Station Street development blocks and the family-friendly R20 zone prior to the start of any construction. Number 3, not to approve an extension of the development approval. Number 4, development is not in accordance with the intent of the Stirling City Centre Plan. Number 5, special provisions should be implemented to ensure the amenity of the area is not lost or has a detrimental impact on the amenity of the locality. As per Part 3.2.3, the City may impose such conditions of development approval as are appropriate and relevant to development of these lots to minimise the impact of development on the locality. And there are 74 petitioners, 74. The other petition is 120 signatures. The City of Stirling Council formally passed a motion that the City of Stirling confirms that the name of the City of Stirling shall remain for perpetuity for the following reasons: the cultural significance aligned to the people who have lived in and have called City of Stirling and the suburb Stirling and their street address Stirling, their home and their place. The huge financial impact that will be placed upon the ratepayers and residents of the City of Stirling if the name Stirling was changed on all crests, buildings, roads, facilities, etc. The name Stirling is associated with different number of innocent people and places, etc. today and in the past who have contributed to the history of Australia and in the world, and these people should be respected and their own history and values not lost or compromised. And just reading that one, I'll have to declare impartial interest because of the Stirling City Structure Plan proximity. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Reid. Can you please fill out the appropriate paperwork? Are there any other unverified petitions? No? Do I have a mover of the petitions? Councillor Reid, seconded Councillor Perkov. Raise of hands will be sufficient. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Responses to previous questions from members of the public taken on notice. All public question time responses from the previous council meeting were published in the minutes of that meeting. 7, public question time. That in accordance with the City of Stirling's meeting procedures local law 2009, public question time be extended for up to 45 minutes to respond to questions from members of the public who have registered. Do I have a mover? Councillor Caddy, seconded Councillor Proud. Just a show of hands, all those in favour? That is unanimous, thank you. I will now move to public question time. Can I please ask Robert Mitchell to come up to the lectern? Good evening, Mr. Mitchell. If you don't mind just popping the microphone on. Perfect, thank you.
Yeah.
And just
Good
your
evening,
name
Deputy
and
Mayor,
suburb, please.
councillors, council officers and fellow ratepayers and public.
Mr. Mitchell,
Come here
sorry,
tonight,
Mr. Mitchell, just your suburb, please, just for the record.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
Robert Mitchell, Karrinyup. Okay. I've come here tonight because on the 17th of August, I asked a question. It was on page 45 of that council meeting, and it was in relation to some metal plinths in Davenport Street in Karrinyup that were put there by the developer, and there's never been any confirmation that they've been approved. And what I did, I asked a question, and I've highlighted exactly what my question was and what the answer was. I'll just go through them. As these signs are close to the curb of the street and are a dangerous traffic hazard, also they are not part of a public utility service and not allowed on public verges unless approved. Currently, if an accident happened, public liability would be brought into question. That means that at the moment, these things are still there. They're not insured. They're not approved. If something happened there, what are the ramifications? But I'll go further. The answer from the Director of Infrastructure, and he's put here, is in reference to specific concerns about sight distances being obstructed, officers have completed a sightline assessment on the signs in their current locations and advise they do not prevent exiting vehicles from being able to see oncoming traffic. I refer back to the question. Nowhere in my question did I ask that. What is going on in this council?
Thank you, Mr Mitchell. I will ask Mr Littleton to provide some feedback.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the question, Mr Mitchell. Your question referenced your view that the signs were obstructing visibility, and on that basis they were unsafe.
Excuse me, point of order. I never said anything about obstructing traffic. I said they were a traffic hazard.
Mr Mitchell, through
Now,
the
please.
chair. Mr Mitchell, through the chair, and as you know, you can't debate the officers, but if you allow Mr Littleton to just finish what he was about to say.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. As I have said, the inference in part of Mr Mitchell's questions was that they were creating a hazard. The city's officers have assessed the site distances and don't believe that to be the case. I have, in also my response to that question, advised that the city has not approved the location of the plinths. I also advised that we are currently working with the developer to identify an appropriate solution to highlight parking availability, which is the reason why those plinths are in place. We are currently working through that with the developer at the moment, and I can confirm that whilst they will and they do intend to make an application for the city to consider permanent location of those plinths, that application hasn't been made and we haven't actually assessed that. But that will be an appropriate forum to enable us to resolve this matter going forward. Further to Mr Mitchell's comments, we're certainly well aware of the legal responsibilities and we're working through those.
Thank you, Mr Littleton.
Excuse
Mr.
me,
Mitchell.
Deputy
Yes.
Mayor. This matter about the control of traffic in this development has been going on since October 2019. These things were put in place. I met the mayor out there and he told me at the time, yep, they're too big, they're ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. And now you're telling me that someone went out there and made the decision from the administration that, yeah, they were fine. You know?
Mr Mitchell, what I'll do is I will speak with the Mayor and I will ask the Mayor and Mr Littleton to come together and meet with you
Here,
about this.
I'll read the letter out.
Mr Mitchell, as you can appreciate, it's public question time. A question needs to be asked. I fully appreciate your concerns and frustration.
One other thing I'd like to ask this administration is in relation to these signs, and I said here in a letter to the Mayor, I also point out that the City of Stirling has approved illuminated street signs erected on metal poles with all the paid advertising throughout the City of Stirling. Now, why is it the City of Stirling designed these things on a pole, have all the advertising on it, yet this lot of people can just go out there, dump a plinth down and be a traffic hazard, and you just carry on as though nothing happened?
Mr Mitchell, as Mr Littleton suggested, they are trying to work on a solution with regards to this matter, particularly if it's going to be something that is going to be permanent. So we appreciate the comments you're suggesting, right? I don't think anyone's disagreeing. What I suggest is that I ask the Mayor and Mr Littleton to give you a call and let's sort this out.
I'm taking this thing a lot further.
Mr Mitchell.
A lot further.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Grant Hankinson. Sorry, Mr Hankinson, for my pronunciation. If you can please just state your name and suburb for the record.
Grant Hankinson from Stirling. First question is, I'm a cyclist who rides hundreds of kilometres around Perth, and I generally do support the council in its planning for more connectivity and following the long-term cycle network plan, or LTCN. For the upcoming freeway PSP, the two connections already planned at Bryan Place and Zerinsky Court, which are 700 metres apart, have no impact on any other recreational users and are in close proximity to the direct route planned on the LTCN. However, the third connection point between these is planned to go through Antonio Scarfo Reserve. I have a petition submitted to the local Member of Parliament, signed by residents and reserve users who truly understand the negative impact of what, and I'll quote the report in the minutes, fast commuting cyclists will have on wildlife, recreational users and pets using the reserve. My question is the council prepared to support the connection through Antonio Scarfo Reserve, knowing it will impact so many when it is completely avoidable by accepting the other two connection points as viable solutions to the LTCN?
Thank you for your question. Mr Littleton or Mr Guillemot?
I can kick it off. Thank you, Madam Chair. The design prepared by Main Roads WA specifically included a number of connections from the PSP into the local neighbourhood to ensure the volume of cyclists is spread evenly, thus reducing the impact on any one location. The impact on the 20 or so adjoining properties should therefore not be significant. Of course, the matter is on the agenda tonight. Council is open to make its own determination.
Thank you. Your second question?
Thank you. Referring to the proposed PSP connections on Antonio Scarfo Reserve, it is designed so that, and I quote, minimises any impacts with pedestrians, recreational activities and wildlife within the reserve. The path may be only 3 metres wide, but there's no separation between the path and the green space used for recreation and wildlife. In fact, the curve of the path to miss the trees actually splits the green space in half. The result is people will stop using the green space altogether as it is physically not possible for adults, children or exercising pets to keep safely away from the cyclists. The wildlife which come from the wetlands will either keep using the green space and be in danger or be frightened away. The question is the council prepared to approve a PSP connection path to quite literally render 1,000 square metres of green space unusable to everyone but cyclists, who will very likely take a shortcut across the existing pedestrian path in the reserve to streamline their journey home?
Thank you, Mr Hankinson. And as Mr Littleton pointed out, it is on tonight's agenda under 14.1 and it's up to this council to make a decision. However, I will ask Mr Littleton to provide a response as well.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The PSP will be approximately 3 metres wide by 100 metres in length, covering an area of approximately 300 square metres. The path will be aligned as close to the northern boundary of the reserve as possible to minimise any impacts on normal reserve activities and to ensure that cyclists do not need to utilise or cut across the reserve. The remaining area will be within the reserve of approximately 15,000 square metres will still be available for use by all reserve users as it currently is.
Thank you. Your third question?
Okay, so as a cyclist trying to follow the current LTCN from Amelia Street to the planned freeway PSP, I would navigate narrow Stirling Waters Avenue with parked cars and 60 houses worth of vehicles trying to enter and exit the estate. I would ride over cobbled paved road, turn right at a T-junction, which cars regularly cut the corner, then go through the pinch point at the start of the path where cars, pedestrians and cyclists all converge. I would then hope that I don't have an accident with dogs running around or children playing with a ball in the green space. The alternative is to use the much wider Oden Drive, turn right using the current median strip onto a much quieter Orr Place and onto the PSP. Is the council prepared to encourage cyclists to follow such a dangerous route onto Antonio Scarfo Reserve just to satisfy the current LTCN, when a safer route close by, which is already planned and is, and I'll quote the report from the council, closer aligned to the natural desire line for cyclists that are travelling to and from the city? Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for providing that context. Mr Hankinson, would you like a response to that question?
I'll wait till later, I guess.
Okay, we'll just note that and provide it in the minutes. Thank you. Tonya Pagioli. Ms Pagioli, if you don't mind stating your name and suburb for the record.
Tonya Pajoli, and I'm from Wembley Downs. Good evening. I'd like to know what is the purpose of your policies such as community and engagement, governance, planning consultation procedure, your childcare policy, your local planning scheme, if they are not fully adhered to as experienced in the abominable process and treatment, including accusations targeted at and experienced by ratepayers and residents in relation to DA 210729, which is a childcare factory in Wembley Downs.
Thank you. Ms Shears.
Thank you, Madam Acting Mayor, and thank you, Ms Pajoli, for the question. The planning framework in Western Australia is performance-based, and by that I mean there's no requirement for applications to have strict adherence to the planning framework. Each planning framework document, such as the local planning policies, also play a slightly different role in that planning framework. So with a local planning policy, it's used primarily to assist a decision maker in exercising their discretion. Discretion is something that's commonly used in the planning framework and decision-making process, and that's been tested and provided in judgments through the court as well.
Thank you. Your second question?
I would like to know why 2 duplex lots on the corners of Hale and Unwin were rezoned without fully following the planning consultation procedure policy or engaging in goodwill through the community engagement and governance policies in notifying residents.
I don't believe those lots were rezoned, but I'll ask Ms Shears to provide an answer.
Through you, Madam Acting Mayor, that's correct. The lots weren't rezoned. There was just an application for a specific use that was considered.
I might just clarify, in terms of land uses, there's a schedule permitted, discretionary, and then special advertising, and then not permitted. And the childcare centre in this situation was something that was discretionary and could be sought. So it's not a change in zoning, it's just applying for a land use on that site.
Right, thank you for that clarification.
No problem.
Why were over 500 residents of this small Wembley Downs community ignored in relation to DA 210729, the childcare factory in Wembley Downs?
Thank you, Ms Shears.
Through you, Madam Acting Mayor, all petitions and submissions were considered through the assessment by officers and also the decision maker at the end, which is the DAP. It's not necessarily the number of signatories on a petition. It's not just that is considered, it's the actual points of submission and contained in the petition itself that are considered.
Well, considering it's discretionary...
Sorry, Ms Pajoli, you have to speak to the chair and unfortunately can't debate with the officers, but with respect to the objections and the petitions received, they would have been contained in the RAR report and also the report that came to council, so they're in front of the decision maker as well. I understand that you're aggrieved with the decision made by the JDAP, however, that decision has been made.
It's also the process that was undertaken and not undertaken here, and the way we were treated along the way.
I appreciate that, and thank you for the feedback. There are 5 members of the public who wanted to ask questions regarding the Mount Lawley Golf Course tree removal from Miss Littleton, Miss Hugh, Miss Stevens, Miss Clary and Miss Webb. They were not able to be here this evening, and those questions will be taken on notice, and a written response will be provided in the upcoming minutes and also emailed to you as well. Roland Hadley.
Good evening all, Roland Hadley, Woodlands. During the period of August, 5 separate payments were made to the Contraflow Company, totalling approximately 61,000. Yet again, the only entry made in the invoice detail column was building materials and construction. Although this simple narrative may satisfy the current Local Government Act, is it so difficult for the City of Stirling to provide more clear, detailed information for its ratepayers?
Thank you, Mr Hadley. Ms Hawkins?
Thank you, through you, Acting Mayor. Thanks, Mr Hadley. I'll take a look at those invoices and provide more detail to you in the minutes.
Thank you. Perhaps the new body of councillors may wish to discuss this matter at a later stage. During this period of accounting, $51 million was invested with the Bank of Queensland. Also, approximately 16 million invested with ME Bank. Assuming there is a finance committee, who recommends which bank to invest in, and how many people are on this committee?
Thank you, Ms Hawkins.
Thank you, through you, Acting Mayor. Mr Hadley, we have an investments policy which the Council endorses and adopts, and that determines who we can bank with and how much we can bank with in terms of percentages. So that's all managed through that investments policy, which is available on our website.
Thank you. Final question. On the 9th of August, 367,000 was paid to the Metropolitan Migrant Resource Centre and classified as contributions. Is this an annual recurring payment, something paid by all councils? A wee bit more narrative for the ratepayers, please.
Ms Hawkins.
Thank you, through you, Acting Mayor. Thanks, Mr Hadley. That would be with regards to a partnership that we have, what the City has with that provider. Again, I'll provide you more detail in the minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Hadley. Jill Stiley. If you can please state your name and suburb for the record.
Jill Steely, Stirling.
Thank you.
One of the 3 main objectives of the Station Precinct Development Plan is, quote, to ensure there is a stepping down of heights from non-residential areas to the residential areas, Part 1.1. The document again describes the stepping down of building heights heading south as they near the R20 zoned residences in Part 3.2.1. Why has the Council approved a 4-story, 21-unit building on the far south end of the precinct area overlooking single-family R20 zoned houses?
Thank you. What was the address or the street name that you're referring to?
Trevithick.
Okay, no problem. Mr.
Or
Rodich?
Trevithick.
Thank you. Mr. Rodich?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Ms Steely, I'm not aware of the specific address. If it's 4 Trevithick Place you're talking about, that was approved by the JDAP last year in October, but I'm happy to take that offline and provide you some feedback on why the application was supported. But if it's that application, it wasn't supported by the City of Stirling Council, it's the JDAP application. The officers would have made a recommendation and reported on the application, but I'm happy to provide some feedback on that once I confirm the address of the property with you.
It's DA 172435, if that helps.
Thank you. Your second question?
The Station District Plan for Development Block along Telford states, the City may impose such conditions of development approval as are appropriate and relevant to the development of these lots to minimize the impact of development on the locality. What conditions did the City impose to minimize the impact on current residents of Trevithick Close, a quiet cul-de-sac, when approving a 4-story, 21-unit development at 4 Trevithick?
Thank you, Mr. Rodich. And just before we proceed, it is an application that my firm previously dealt with, so I am declaring the interest. Mr. Rodich.
Thanks, Madam Mayor, and thanks, Mr. Steele, for the question. I don't have the application details in front of me, and I haven't been provided with this question before tonight. So, look, I'm happy to sit down with you and go through the conditions of that approval. But as I said before, it was approved by the JDAP in October last year, and I'm happy to go through the assessment with you.
It actually wasn't approved last year. It was approved in 2018.
So it may not be the application that my firm dealt with, but regardless, the interest is there. The third question.
Large multi-residential buildings built among single-family homes adversely affect the locality due to increased traffic, parking shortages, compromised privacy, and noise. If the city is concerned about retaining the R20 codes to protect the family-friendly residences adjacent to the Telford development blocks, why haven't they implemented a permanent barrier between these development blocks and the single-family homes?
Thank you, Ms. Stiley. Mr. Rodich?
Through you, Madam Mayor. Ms. Steele, now that you quoted that it's an application which was approved in 2017, I definitely need to have a look at it and I'm happy to sit down with you and provide you a written reply after meeting with you to go through that application. But there are many applications in Stirling, and without knowing the details of the address in time before this meeting, I can't provide you any detail.
It was lodged in 2017, approved in 2018.
Can I just clarify, is it the application that had that unusual access through to Telford Crescent?
Yes, but there was
Okay.
two there.
Just
There
to
was
clarify,
one-
I can withdraw my impartial, thank you.
Yeah, there was two.
Yeah, that's right, okay.
On either side of that laneway.
Okay, understood. Thank you. David Brockbank. Mr. Brockbank, if you don't mind stating your name and suburb for the record.
David Brockbank of Stirling. It's regarding for Trevithick Close also. Since access to the development blocks via Trevithick Close is no longer allowed, part 3.2.3 of the station plan, what is the intent for the 3 narrow strips of land left between several of the houses on Trevithick Close?
Thank you, Mr. Brockbank. I think similar to the answers previously, the officers will need to look into that and we'll be able to provide you some commentary in writing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Simon Wheeler. Mr. Wheeler, twice in one day.
We will have to stop meeting
Yes.
like this, Bianca.
Just your name and suburb.
Simon Wheeler in Scarborough. Deputy Mayor Sandry, there's a petition in tonight for requesting that the city procure legal advice in regard to the Karrinyup redevelopments. Now, I see that's gone off to the Development Services Business Unit, and we've asked that question, the KIID group have asked that question, and I've asked that question here before, and each time we're told that there are no legal issues that need to be resolved. Now, my question is, how do you know there are no legal issues to be resolved unless it goes for legal advice? And the Mayor and staff have all commented that there's a problem with that, with the way that application was handled, and that the DAP probably exceeded their authority in that approval. So that's why the petition is here. My main concern is I don't want this petition to go into the administrative black hole that so many do. This petition was for council. The questions before went to the staff. We know what the staff think, and that's fine. We want the council to tell us what they think about this. How can we guarantee that this petition actually comes back to council for determination rather than, again, down the black hole?
Thank you, Mr. Wheeler. As you well pointed out, it's actually under review by the Development Services Department, and I will ask Mr. Rodich to please advise.
Thanks, Madam Mayor, and thanks, Mr. Wheeler, for the question. The city are reviewing the decision now that the minutes of the JDAP meeting have been published with the reasons for the JDAP supporting the application. So we're reviewing that at the moment.
And I guess in response to it coming to council, which is part of your question, that will be a matter for council once the caretaker policy is over.
But whether it comes to council in the first place, I'm sorry, I know we're not debating, is a matter for the administration as far as I'm aware. So this petition was made to council, and I just wanted to underline that.
Thank you. It's noted.
My second question, I hate to start perhaps a self-fulfilling prophecy, but a councillor has told members of the public that I'm fractious at council, in which case I'll plead guilty, and also that the staff don't like me very much and I have problems with the staff, and so I could be quite ineffective. Now, there are a couple of planning staff who have moved to a different diocese, and with regards to mutual respect, we were in furious agreement. But I think I get on quite well with the staff at the moment. I'm only saying that because this question might be seen to be questioning staff, and it's not. It's a straightforward question. I mean it in the intent it's put forward. Are senior staff required by a local law or otherwise contractually obligated to ensure that advice given to councillors and to the public is factually correct and otherwise unbiased?
Mr. CEO?
Simple answer to that is yes.
I would prefer a more specific answer. Is it a contractual issue or is it a policy issue?
Mr. Blanchard?
Thank you. Through you, Acting Mayor, and thank you for the question. Every member of staff of the City of Stirling is a public servant, and their duty is to the public. We can provide a more detailed response to you as to the ins and outs of where those obligations lie, be they in their employment contract, be they through a code of conduct, or be through the governance policies of the City of Stirling. But the fact remains that we are all public servants and we owe our duties to the public through the City of Stirling.
But you can provide policy references.
Yes. Do you have any other questions,
Nah,
Mr. Villa?
that's it for
Okay,
tonight.
no
That'll
problem.
do.
Thank
Thank
you. Rob Papard? Mr. Papard, if you can please state your name and suburb for the record.
Thank you, Madam Acting Mayor. Rob Papard, Colin Road in Scarborough. Now, this is in regards to the proposed childcare centre at the corner of Howell Road and Unwin Avenue in Wembley Downs. Now, thank you to the previous residents for asking questions on this very important topic. I've spoken to residents who are in support of the approved childcare centre and many who are in fact opposed to it. So my family, including me, are opposed to it at its current proposed location, as it is indeed the worst possible location I can think of.
Just a question, sorry, Mr. Papard.
For this kind. I'm getting to my question. And now it's my understanding that there is no third-party appeals process. So my question is this true, and can anything, Madam Acting Mayor, anything can be done to overturn the DAP decision in this forum or by the City?
Thank you, Mr. Papard. It's a well-known fact that Western Australia does not have third-party appeal rights, so there's an inability for the City or residents alike to be able to appeal a decision. However, Ms. Shears, if you would like to add anything further.
Thank you, Madam Acting Mayor. That's correct. There's no third-party appeal rights in Western Australia. Therefore, there is no avenue for whether it be the City or residents or submitters to dispute a decision such as this made by the DAP. There is one potential very expensive, costly legal avenue through, I believe, the High Court in Western Australia, but it's not something that is often done or met with very much success at all.
Okay, that's
thank
my
you,
only question. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Carisha Griffin. Ms. Griffin not here? Okay. We'll take her questions on notice and provide a response. Tara Maholand. If you please don't mind stating your name and suburb.
Tara Mulholland of Stirling. Just raising again the same development that was discussed previously, impacting on Trevithick Close. I've been living in the area for about 2.5 years. I was really shocked to hear that there's going to be multi-level developments. It's not exactly what I'd picture for the area. I've got 3 young children who play outside a lot, and we've got a very, very family-friendly neighbourhood and great neighbours. So question I really want answered is how safety would be managed and how the safety of children in the area in particular would not be impacted by a development like this, in particular if access from Trevithick Close is allowed.
Thank you for your question. Very similar to the answer previously, because it is something that's just come to light this evening. We'll get a response over to you as soon as possible and also be minuted in our minutes.
And I just further to that,
sure.
A lot of us haven't really felt very informed. So I'd just like to know how we can be involved in the consultation process. a bit
Sure. I don't believe there's an amended development application in the system, Mr. Rodich.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thanks for your question and patience tonight in regards to this application. I've just had a look after getting some further details. So, yes, that application was actually determined by the City of Stirling in 2018. The application, there's no amendment at this moment to the City of Stirling, so that approval remains valid, and there wouldn't be any consultation as that would have occurred back when the application was made back in, sounds like the end of 2017, 2018 period. But Ms Mulholland, I'm happy to take the questions on notice tonight, and I'm more than happy to meet with yourself and the other residents to discuss the approval. But from my understanding of what I'm just looking at on the system, that has been approved, and that approval is valid. It sounds like there must be some activity on site, and that's why the residents are probably asking questions tonight, but I'll take that on notice and get back to you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Is anyone else in the gallery who wishes to ask a question this evening? Yes? If you can please just state your name and suburb for the record, please.
Yeah, hi, my name's Sandra Dowling. I live in Stirling. This is about this development because I live there. That access road wasn't supposed to be there. It's split. There is actually a driveway on that property on Telford. So this whole development was a bit of a farce in my eyes. Anyway, we've got huge problems with drugs, with idiots, with knives and axes running through the alleyway. We've all had been affected by cars being broken into, so that whole thing that went through in 2017 and 18, in the outcome, that access is supposed to be blocked. We would like that access road blocked. Our concern is the new developer who turned up and started turning around that he's going to do all these wonderful things and he's going to have access to that road. That is not a road. Okay, now we've got, we've got children and animals on that cul-de-sac. It is so safe. We are all friends. We all get on really well. We are trying to protect our families. This is our home. It is not a money-making thing for this council. This is our home. Please consider our needs. This is very important to us.
Thank you for your question. Sorry, if you don't mind coming back to the lectern for... Thank you. If you don't mind passing on your contact details through to one of our officers, and we'll be able to get potentially Mr. Quirk to give you a call regarding the antisocial behaviour.
I think we actually deserve a meeting in the cul-de-sac. There's probably about 40 people minimum.
We can facilitate that.
And we need to sort this out. Because if you're having low-income housing, you are just going to ruin that whole area. And I thought Stevenson is supposed to be where the high-rises were. What are you doing in this little cul-de-sac?
Okay, thank you. We'll organise a meeting with the residents. Thank you. Are there any other further questions from the gallery? Yes?
Yolanda Miller from Stirling. I just want to know, how will the council, who, when we dealt with this application when it came through and we got the words in the document changed so that they would not have access off Trevithick, how can the council ensure that if an application gets put in again and they ask council to remove that condition that says, or try to get that access off Trevithick, what assurity do we have as residents that you will stick to what the words are in those documents and not allow access off Trevithick?
Thank you, Mr. Rodich. Well, we may just have to take that on notice because it is regarding the condition, so we'll get Mr. Rodich to be able to provide the response in writing.
And
Thank
just
you.
one more thing, can we as residents also know when the application comes to council for you to consider so that we can actually come in here and deal with the matter, because we don't hear about anything until it's
So
too late.
just to clarify, there is no current application in the city at the moment.
Okay.
That was clarified by Mr. Rodich. Mr. Rodich, do you want to re-clarify that?
Thanks, Madam Deputy Mayor, and thanks, Ms Miller, for the question. The application has got a valid approval to July 2022. Had an extension of time approval last year due to the COVID exemptions. There's nothing on the system which says there's a new application, so other than the applicant not complying with that approval, it's unlikely it would come back to council for any consideration unless there's a new application.
Or if there's a variation. So if the applicant wants to vary one of the conditions or vary that application, will we be as residents told about this, and will advertising occur again?
Yeah, through the chair. Thank you, Mr. Roddick.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. Ms Miller, that really will depend on what the amended condition is or what the changes are, and the City of Stirling will always try to seek feedback from community members where we believe that application may have an impact or needs to be advertised under the scheme. So really got to consider that at the time and what the change is.
Well, I can already let you know right now, most likely
Sorry, this
it'll be the
is, sorry, just to clarify, this is public question time. We can't debate the officers. That is 3 questions.
Okay, that's fine.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Okay.
Thank you. I will now ask, is there anyone else from the floor that would like to ask a public question? No? Okay, I declare public question time closed. Are there any applications for leave of absence? No? Confirmation of minutes from the 28th of September 2021. Councillor McDowell moving, Councillor Spagnolo seconding. If everyone can please vote. No, on the screen, please. And that is carried unanimously. I will now move to announcements by the presiding member. There are 3 this evening. If I can please ask Councillor Proud for the first mention.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor and Madam Acting Mayor tonight. I have an award I'm delighted to submit to the City. First up, with your indulgence, Madam Acting Mayor, I'd like to ask Anika Rogers if she wouldn't mind coming up, please. This will be painless. Councillors and officers, I am incredibly proud in a couple of ways, but incredibly proud to have attended the 2021 Tennis WA Industry Awards on Friday evening, just gone, with Anika, our Coordinator of Club Development, on Friday evening. And just to let you know, this was last year, those awards were put off because of COVID, so it was 2 years' worth of awards across the tennis industry. Anika's got a broken arm playing that ball. If you'd like to hold that up, you can show the audience as well. And the City was awarded the Local Government Award for supporting tennis. In particular, Wembley Downs Tennis Club through the project to convert 4 grass courts to synthetic from hard and additional court lighting. The award was submitted by the President, Wembley Downs Tennis Club, and was based on the outstanding support they received from the City in guiding the SRFF application and the recent development application process. So whilst a range of officers in development services and the rec and leisure business units were involved, it was the exemplary work of our Anika that saw the project from inception through the whole process, which was really quite long and quite detailed, to the ultimate delivery when it will be completed, proposed for February next year. Anika's professionalism in dealing with all the stakeholders in a fair, transparent manner with solution-focused approach ensured both the club felt supported and the residents were listened to. She was willing to navigate, and she did this with absolute professionalism, Madam Acting Mayor. Through the process, it was contentious in some regards because community had concerns about it, and we attended numerous stakeholder meetings. Anika provided extensive professional advice without fear or favour, and while supporting our numerous clubs across the city is her and her team's role, her level of professionalism displayed through this process was exemplary. Deputy Mayor, I'd like to break with normal protocol, and I'm going to actually ask Anika to bring this up to you to present.
Thank you, Councillor Proud, and congratulations to the team. So I have a second announcement. Our Manager of Governance, Jamie Blanchard, was recently recognised internationally as one of the 2021 Modern Governance 100 recipients in the Risk and Compliance Visionary category, announced on the 16th of September 2021. A panel of expert judges recognised his outstanding commitment to lead a strategic risk management program that delivers executive visibility and assurance, effectively demonstrates compliance and increased day-to-day efficiencies. Congratulations, Jamie. And on my final announcement this evening, which the Mayor has asked me to mention, it is the final days of the 2021 local government elections. As at 9 a.m. on Wednesday, 13th of October 2021, that's tomorrow morning, using today's figures, of course, the WAEC's website showed that 32,837 votes across the City of Stirling's 7 wards have been returned, averaging out to 21.6% of the city's eligible electors. With a total of 28 candidates vying for 1 seat across each ward, the Mayor said he is looking forward to seeing democracy in action when the votes are counted on Saturday night, and I wish all those candidates the very best of luck. Elections are exciting times, and we do encourage the residents of the City of Stirling to vote, and they have the ability to do so by attending the Civic Centre or our libraries, by handing in their votes, as it's probably a little late to post them through Australia Post. But I also do want to acknowledge the 2 councillors who are resigning this evening. Firstly, Councillor Spagnolo, and I know the Mayor had some kind words at last meeting, but we thought it would be appropriate to also mention some further background of you both and embarrass you a little bit more. Councillor Spagnolo, who has served the council for a total of 24 years as councillor, mayor and deputy mayor, was born and raised right here in Osborne Park. Councillor Spagnolo has spent much of his life serving the Osborne ward of the City of Stirling, and he has been an active and engaged community member throughout this time. He is the Foundation President of the Osborne Ward Ratepayer Association and worked as a local government building surveyor for 15 years for a neighbouring local government authority. I too used to work there. He was brought to the council chambers an extensive knowledge of the sector, and he has been committed to ensuring fair governance, consistency in council decisions, friendly service and advocating for the community. Congratulations, Councillor Spagnolo, on a stellar career. Councillor Karen Caddy has served the Coastal Ward for 8 years, having lived across the city in Nollamara, Doubleview and Scarborough. She played a part in delivering the world-class Scarborough foreshore revitalisation and has been an active member of the Scarborough Beach Association. Councillor Caddy has been a strong advocate for our local clubs and community organisations, with her commitment to developing inclusive communities where everyone can contribute, and I am proud of what she has delivered in the Coastal Ward. Councillor Caddy was one of 6 councillors to receive a Merit Award from the West Australian Local Government Association for their personal commitment, eminent service and contribution to the local government sector in October 2021. And I would also like to thank Councillor Caddy for the significant contribution she has also made at Tamala Park Regional Council as well in the last 2 years as Chair. Congratulations, Councillor Caddy, on also a very stellar career at the City of Stirling. I wish you both the very best of luck in your futures and stay in touch. Now, moving on to the meeting itself. 11, unresolved business from previous meetings. There is nil. Reports and recommendations of committees. There is nil. We're moving on to item 13, reports for consideration in accordance with section 4.24 of the Meeting Procedures Local Law of 2009. The first item, 13.1, access review of beaches. On page 8, Councillor Caddy, do you have a motion?
Happy to move the officer's recommendation on page 9.
Thank you. Councillor Proud, seconding. Is there anyone against this motion? Councillor Ree, is it a question or against? Against? Okay. Councillor Caddy, if you'd like to open debate, please.
I reserve.
Thank you. Councillor Proud? No? Councillor Ree?
Thank you. Before I start, could I please be advised as to why this actually came to council without going to a committee, that in accordance with 4.24 of the city's meeting procedures local law, that the CEO chooses to bring things to council. Could I ask why this was brought to council and not to committee? What was the urgency, please?
Thank you, Councillor Ree. One moment.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. The CEO determines the agenda of committee and council meetings.
That didn't answer my question. It does actually state there, if I quote, matters he'd considered appropriate to be decided at that meeting. My question was, why did it come to a council meeting? Why didn't it go to a committee meeting? And is there some urgency as to why?
Councillor Ree, the CEO has the ability to bring an item before council without going to a committee meeting. If you feel as if you would like this to be considered at a committee meeting, it is up to you if you wish to defer the item. One moment, Councillor Ree. Mr. Jardine.
So if council decides tonight that it doesn't want to consider this item because it's non-urgent and there's no legal implications, which there aren't, that's a matter for council's determination.
Exactly what I just suggested, Councillor Ree. If you feel as if you cannot, if you feel it should be deferred this evening, you have a right to move that motion.
My point, Madam Presiding Member, was that there is no reason why. I asked why it came to council and didn't go to committee. I still haven't been told that. I'm quite well aware of the legislation that actually says that he can. What I was saying was why. Why did it come? The CEO has just said there's no urgency, there's no legal impediment, so therefore there's two reasons why it didn't have to come. So my question was still, why did it come to council, not committee? And I'll follow on because those questions are still not asked. Follow on my question.
I can get you an answer, Councillor Ree, one moment. It is something we have considered before. Mr. Quirk?
Through you, Madam Chair, the reason we brought this directly to Council is the access review has actually already been presented to Council. It was simply referred to the Access and Inclusion Advisory Group. So given the fact that the access review itself had already been considered by Council, all this is really doing is reporting back feedback from one of our advisory groups. So it was seen as sufficient to bring it directly to Council.
Councillor Ree?
Well, I find that equally strange comment when we look at that the council approves the progression and the recommendation of short-term priority actions as detailed within its report. So we're actually telling us to endorse what's in the report. Nowhere in this report have we gone out to the members of the community. Nowhere. I mean, if we're going to put a report, considering what happened at Meadams Pool, considering of trying to get some of the disability access places, and we do have a really great booklet on inclusion, this is supposed to be implemented. I'm just concerned that we actually haven't talked to the people. It's all right to have an advisory group of all the people that are in the building and access to consultants, but the people at the ground, whether they can use it or whether they think it should be in or out or whatever, should be consulted before that's implemented. So I can't see how we can approve the progression of this report when it has not been out to the public, when it hasn't debated at committee, and I fail to understand whether or not the community, it's all right going to advisory group, but then I look at the design review panel and other groups and I just think, how far away are they from the community? So I can't support this recommendation because I feel it needs to go out to the community first. It's after all, they're the ones that are actually going to use it, and if it's not going to be functional, then we're wasting a whole lot of money. And this report does say approve. It's not just acknowledging, it actually says approve.
Thank you, Councillor Reid. Just for clarification, the Access Advisory Group is made up of City of Stirling residents. Thank you, Councillor Farrelly.
Thank you very much, Acting Madam Chair. I have actually had some communication following the reading of this report. I would like to thank the Director of Infrastructure and the Director of Recreation Services for coming down and speaking to a group of what you'd call local regulars down at Sea Breeze, Brighton Beach. But I've also had discussion after with the Director, Mr Quirk, because they were looking for, and it's been on the agenda, I think, even before we went through this review, accessibility for people who are not impaired, but people who are getting a bit aged, and they really want to be able to get up and down the beach, and it's a very sandy, very, it doesn't have a lot of, what do you call it, hard matter underneath in the part near the ocean. Now, the short-term recommendation is a bench. Now, I've just had a bit of a joke with the Director that we're going to have a couple of skipping ropes, are we, from the ocean where they can grab the skipping rope and pull themselves along until they get to the bench, because that's the part where it is really soft sand. And that is the problem part. And that is the part I did raise much earlier, probably 8 to 9 months ago, and it was a one-off. It was just, look at this one, because this is where the locals come. These are the residents year-round who want to use their beach and who want to, once summer starts, to use the ocean. There are a few still want to use it in winter, but most don't. Why is it, I agree with Councillor Ree, in that the Council approves progression, why can't we have that revisited? Because I think if you went down to the beach with a bench as an option, as opposed to putting some hard matting or limestone, which I think was part of the discussion, even though I could not be there because I had a conference to go to. Therefore, because that's what's going to be expected.
Sorry, Councillor Farrelly, are you suggesting you would like to move an amendment?
Yes, I am, yes.
And what would the amendment
I would
be?
like to defer this until...
Oh, so, sorry, you'd like a procedural motion?
That's what I want,
Okay.
yes, please. Can't do it?
Yes, you can. Yeah, procedural motion to defer the item?
To defer this until we have had... I mean, it may just be a simple discussion. Just defer, all right.
Defer the item and to the
Till
next committee meeting?
To the next committee meeting, yes.
Sure.
Thank you.
Seconder, Councillor Ree. I will put that. And that motion is lost. In support was Councillor Farrelly, Hatton, Rees, Bagnolo and Thornton, and against Councillors Caddy, Ferranti, Lagan, Migdal, Perkov, Proud, Sandra and Sargent. Councillor Farrelly, would you like to continue with debate?
I'd just like to say thank you very much to those who use the beach and understand what I'm talking about. I will have to...
Through the Chair, Councillor Farrelly.
Thank you, through the Madam Acting Chair. Not Madam, Mademoiselle. It is something where I'd actually...
Speak against what's here. Speak against what you don't like.
The access review has not delivered what the community is looking for. I think this is what I'm really saying to you. The review was the review wasn't requested. I am just talking about one small aspect of that review that has not been what's been asked for. I would have preferred a wording than approve, because within that seems to be a finish. It's all been catered for. It's not. It's very much an interim, I believe, an interim placement. It is not going to address the issue that was raised. Thank you.
I will ask Mr. Quirk to provide some clarification.
Through you, Madam Chair, the element that Councillor Farrelly is referring to is solely the beach access track at Brighton, which the access consultant has reviewed. Myself and Mr. Littleton did go down and meet with the number of residents who use that track. It is a difficult track, and we cannot put beach matting on that track because of the length of the track, the fact that it's used by vehicles. Limestone isn't seen as a reasonable solution either. Again, it's not particularly comfortable underfoot, and because of the dynamic nature of the dunes, will require significant investment and ongoing maintenance. So certainly the officers understand what these particular residents are looking for. Unfortunately, what seem like easy solutions from an accessibility perspective are not possible at the Brighton Beach access path. So we're certainly happy to continue to look at what options may be more feasible, and certainly the report references that. What we were mindful of doing, but is not responding to those residents at all, which is why we did propose a solution. Some of the feedback we got was that they felt like they needed a point of relief between the beach and the formal path, which was the rationale behind the bench seating. So I just wanted to reassure Councillor Farrelly that the needs of those community members have certainly not been disregarded, but beach accessibility in a dynamic beach location is a challenge, as seen by the trial of beach matting at Trigg, which is a result of a recent notice of motion that, again, just because of ocean and beach conditions, we ended up having to pull that beach matting out. Hence the need for a little bit more science behind where we put this sort of infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Quirk. Councillor McDowell?
Thank you, Madam Acting Mayor, Deputy Mayor. Firstly, it's a bit confusing. I would like to take this opportunity to wish you a very happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. I'm not going to sing. So, you know, we are an inclusive city. There's no doubt about that. And it is a journey that we're on together. We all concur that we want to find better ways of including everybody. Our beaches, as beautiful as they are for everybody. In this, we all agree. I think we all agree. I certainly do. Last year, in an effort to further this cause, I moved a notice of motion to put the trail mats at Trigg. Certainly, I have family members who have diminished mobility, and it was the only way that I could assist them with getting close, relatively close to the water. We are not stopping here. Don't think for a second that we are going to stop here. This is progressing, and supporting this recommendation today will only support us in our effort to ensure that our beaches and our entire city is inclusive and accessible to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McDowell. Councillor Ray, you've already spoken. Is it quick? Sorry, just your microphone.
Of your clarification of your last comment concerning who was actually on this committee, according to page 12, it doesn't actually say that there are any people from the community on there, which was my point, that originally there was, but when there doesn't say anybody from the community. While I totally agree with this project and everything else like that, as I said, I do believe the community needs to be informed. And on page 12, it just actually doesn't say community. That's all. I don't need a response. I can read.
Thank you, Councillor Ray. Mr. Quirk, if you can please clarify.
Through you, Madam Chair, the Access and Inclusion Advisory Group is one of Council's advisory groups with the membership advertised through an expression of interest and then members appointed by Council. These are Council-appointed community representatives that provide advice on access and inclusion matters.
Thank you. And to close, Councillor Caddy.
Thank you. Look, just a couple of points. Firstly, the council resolution that we passed in June asked this item to go to the Access and Inclusion Advisory Group and then come back to council, which is the process that has happened. Council didn't ask for it to go to any further consultation. They simply asked for it to be run past the Access and Advisory Group, which is what the officers did. So that's why the process has been as it is. And look, one of the really strong feedbacks that's come back through the report is around concentrating our efforts around particular beaches. And I think what's come through really strongly, which I thoroughly endorse, is working together with our two surf lifesaving clubs at Scarborough and Trigg to make sure that the people who have impaired access or are not as strong and capable in terms of their ability to cross the beach or to be in the surf are actually able to access the beach at the safest possible locations, which is where there are regular surf lifesavers and beach patrols. So I think the recommendation that's here in the report, which is to work closely with our local surf lifesaving clubs to ensure that the accessibility provisions that we provide people are in the best locations where they are safe, not only on the beach but in the water, but also so that our surf clubs can work with the city to actually manage those access arrangements. For instance, take the beach matting in and out, look after the walkers, etc. So look, I think the recommendation here is a really sensible approach. We can't expect to have access at every possible location, but Scarborough and Trigg, at those particular locations where the distance of crossing the beach is shorter and where there are surf lifesavers on patrol regularly to keep people safe, is absolutely the right way to go, and I thank the officers for their recommendations in this report.
Thank you. I will now go to the vote. Councillor Hatton? Thank you. And that motion is carried 12-1 with Councillor Ree against the motion. Moving on to item 13.2, Small Business Friendly Approvals Project Completion on page 55. I have Councillor McDowell moving and Councillor Lagan seconding. Sorry, Councillor McDowell, which motion are you moving?
I'm moving the motion on page 55 of the agenda, the officers
Perfect.
recommend.
And Councillor Lagan, just confirming you're seconding that. Thank you. Is anyone against this? Question? I'll allow a question, Councillor Ree.
Yes, please. Just a couple of questions, if I may.
Are they quick, Councillor Ree, or do I need to open?
They are quick.
Okay, great.
One is with regard to if there's the finances on page 60, it doesn't say a cost. It doesn't say any financial implications, but further on page 56, it actually says that they had a consultant. So if it's got money involved, then it shouldn't be presented. So my question is was there a cost or was it there? Because I did recall, I thought there was, so it's not.
Thank you, Councillor Ree. Mr. Roddick?
Thanks, Councillor Ree, for the question. The consultant was funded by the Small Business Development Corporation, not the City of Stirling.
That's all. Okay, I will put that to the vote. And thank you, councillors. Oh, Councillor Spagnolo. Perfect. That has been carried unanimously. Moving on to item 13.3, elected members superannuation, page 86. Councillor Lagan.
Sorry, thank you, Madam Acting Mayor. I move the recommendation on page 86, but I also note that it is inclusive of the recommendation within the Walga report.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I had Councillor McDowell first. Seconding the motion. Anyone against? No, I'll put that to the vote. That has been carried unanimously. Moving on to item 14, motions of which previous notice has been given. Item 14.1, notice of motion, Councillor Chris Hatton, proposed cycle path and freeway access, Antonio Scarfo Reserve. Councillor Hatton.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Acting Mayor.
Do you have a motion?
I do. I'd like to actually amend the original motion and put an alternative motion by way of changing some wording, please.
Sure, if you can please read that out.
Okay, I'd like to amend or change to that the Mayor and I'll just say it's the original motion with a change of 2 words. Instead of consult, change to instruct. Instruct, take out with. Instruct Main Roads WA to remove instead of removing, and the rest is okay.
Okay.
They have to fix up instruct. Are we allowed to instruct?
I believe it reads properly now.
Councillor Hatton, if I may, sorry. With respect to the word instruct, it may not necessarily work in our favour. Would you be amenable to the word request?
Request would be fine.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, do I have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Perkov. Is there anyone against that motion? Okay, I will open up debate. Councillor Hatton.
Thank you. Well, firstly, I feel a bit uncomfortable here on the 39th Council when everyone's probably wanting a quick meeting. So I could make my debate or points very quick or a short verse.
You have 5 minutes, Councillor.
5 minutes? Or I could go to a summary straight away. No extensions, all right. Well, let's make it very clear that everyone wants to get out of this chamber. So I'd like to, first of all, wish everyone good for the election, and we're very keen to get out of here, as I said. Now, this item relates to the state and local governments of WA getting more connection for riding. That is getting cars off the roads, progressing the cycle networks across WA metropolitan, and it is about expanding the PSP network. It's about building a section of PSP on the east side of Mitchell Freeway from Erindale Road to Karrinyup Road. Specifically, this item is about that, and it's about creating 3 entry or exit points or connections along about a 700 metre stretch, only a 700 metre stretch of area in the Stirling area. Now, the local residents certainly support connectivity. What they don't support is the excessive number of connection points, just over 700 metres, 3 connection points. They don't support the dangerous placement of the connection point at Antonio Scarfo Reserve, and they don't support the impact of recreation and environment at Antonio Scarfo Reserve. They certainly do support connectivity, and a number of residents are riders, as was noted in public question time. So may I explain as simply as possible, the PSP plan proposes 3 new connection points within just 700 metres. From Erindale Road to Karrinyup Road. There actually will be 5 connection points from Erindale Road to Karrinyup Road over a distance of about 2 kilometres. That's a lot of connection points. The question is, why so many connection points? And why is one needed at Antonio Scarfo Reserve? By eliminating a connection point at the reserve, there will still be a multitude of connections. So that's the first point. There are other connections either side of this proposed connection. Secondly, to have the connection point at Antonio Scarfo Reserve will be dangerous. The local road conditions at the reserve are already dangerous. There's a T-junction, which has been explained earlier. There's a T-junction there, which I use every day. I've already declared that it's my local park close to me. There's 60 residents that go in and out of this T-junction. It is the only access point to and from their houses, and it is a blind spot. In the morning, there's the sun shining from the east, right along Emilion Street, over the crest of the hill, blinding you at that corner. If cyclists are coming through, destination cyclists which council has alluded to or said, or the officers. They're probably going to be mainly destination cyclists that are fast riders. Cyclists in the morning won't be blinded by the sun, but the motorists will be, and there's likelihood of a very serious accident. In the evening, it's the reverse. These destination cyclists are returning from predominantly Perth, and if they use this public, connection point, they'll be actually hitting the sunset with drivers going into the sunset. So I don't mean to dwell on sunsets and sunrises, but let's face it, people get killed because of blinding sun. It is a dangerous area, and the geographical layout up the road at the other 2 points is much safer, in the opinion of all the residents, much, much safer. And there's even a cycle extension of the existing cycle path infrastructure by the City of Stirling that leads to Bryan Place. And then you've got a straight run down without a T-junction. It's really very little distance more. As a matter of fact, going left at Amelia Street, going down Odin Road towards Perth, where most of the destination riders will be going, it is going to be quicker to go down that way to the left.
30 seconds.
30 seconds already? Okay. Okay. The other point is recreation. Recreation, there's the actual Antonio Scarfa Reserve is a wetland area. It's about the size of an AFL footy oval. It needs the green space. There's limited green space, and this cycle path access will take out that green space. There's a multitude of reasons why we don't need, or the public don't need, this access point. You only have to go left and right to find 2 or 3 or up to 5 others. So I ask for support. By the way, there is very...
That's 5 minutes, Councillor Hatton.
May I get an extension of... Thank you.
Okay, moving Councillor Perkov, seconding Councillor Proud. Just a show of hands, please.
Thank you, fellow councillors.
Hang on, sorry, I didn't actually see all the hands. It's everyone in for, against Councillor Ferranti. Oh, for unanimous? Okay.
All right, Councillor Ferranti, I'll be quick.
Unanimous.
Thank you for the extension. Look, essentially, it is a main roads infrastructure. Main roads are paying for all the access points on the PSP. To not have this PSP has no implication to the council. It really is a win-win situation. A petition has been advanced to the local member, David Michael. David Michael will be presenting the petition into Parliament tomorrow. I have well, actually, I do have information that if we support my motion tonight, then Main Roads will take that access point out. They aren't worried about that access point not being there. It's up to us, the council, to resolve this tonight for the good of that local community. Just think about it. Are we for green spaces? Yes. Are we for wetlands? Yes. Are we for recreation? Yes. Are we for public amenity? Yes. By having this access point at Antonio Scarfa Reserve, when you don't need it, and Main Roads will take it out, it's just ridiculous. It's against our philosophy of looking after people. So I ask for the support for this local community on taking away this access point, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hatton. Councillor Perkov, a seconder.
Yes, thank you, Madam Acting Chair.
5 minutes.
I don't think I'll need that much. But Madam Acting Chair, a couple of times this evening, not related to this item, but a couple of other items, you could ask yourself, well, what's in a family-friendly neighbourhood? What's in a community? A lot, especially in this case, as everyone would know around this table, that Councillor Hatton and myself have always been very protective of our green spaces and neighbourhoods and that sort of thing. Let me just come back to, no one is against these public, these PSP connections, absolutely no one. But in this case, as it's already been said, so many connections in such a short space of time. Now, around this table, in this chamber, we have some very keen cyclists. They're like at best average cyclists, and I believe to cover the 700 metres...
We're above average, thank you.
My apologies, Madam Chair. To cover 700 metres, it takes about 50 seconds. This is not Tour de France. 50 seconds is not for someone who's keen to ride a bike 12 kilometres to work and back 5 kilometres. It's not a lot. And as Councillor Hatton said, the local member, our very esteemed Mr. David Michael, is supporting the community who've actually provided him with the petition to go along with this. So I hope that the other councillors around the table will support Councillor Hatton's motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Perkov. Councillor Caddy.
Thank you. Look, I'd like to draw councillors' attentions to the map on page 106, because I think that is really what sums all of this up. And I remind council that our job here tonight, like it is every time we sit on council, is to try to do the most good for the most people. So what you're seeing here is a green line that goes right through Amelia Street and connects onto the future PSP through Antonio Scarfa Reserve. So this is the cycle network we're talking about. And if we don't allow them to go straight through on that green path, cyclists are going to have to divert the purple or the orange to get onto that FSP along Odin Road. And I actually went and had a look at this. I took the trouble to go and have a look at this because this isn't my neighbourhood. I don't live next to this park. But I can tell you that that little cul-de-sac, that St Antonio Drive, I didn't see a single car on. There were people walking along the street and there was a lovely little community neighbourhood. But Odin Road was absolutely back-to-back traffic. So when we're talking about danger and putting our cyclists at risk, I think making them divert up and down Odin Drive, where there's a heap of traffic, rather than letting them go through a quiet little street or along the periphery of a park and onto the FSP, is actually much, much safer for our cyclists. I do note that the orientation of this park is on the northern boundary. It's not cutting through the park. And as the the director has said, it takes up 300 square metres of a park that is 15,000 square metres. So I understand that the local councillors are wanting to preserve their park, but the reality is the amenity of the park is going to be very little impacted by this. And I think that the hazard associated with potentially a cyclist running over a duck is probably less than the hazards that they're going to face if we divert them down Odin Drive. I think there's also one more point to bear in mind here. And some of you who've served on council for a while know that I went to Holland on a transport trip looking at cycling infrastructure. And the big message that I heard in Holland is if you want to encourage people to cycle, the route has to be the most direct, the most convenient route. Because if people have to go out of their way, if the cycling route is longer than they would have had to take otherwise, they won't take it. And so I look at this map and I say, why would we force them to divert completely out of their way when there is an opportunity to put a straight path right through? It's going to have negligible impact on the open space. It's actually a much safer route for cyclists. So if we have to weigh up in the balance what decision is going to do the most good for the most people, I think letting this cycleway go through in the route that's proposed is the right decision.
Thank you, Councillor Caddy. I have Councillor Sargent next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I, to run off the back of Councillor Perkov, am a less than average cyclist. And there's people around this table that are far more professional than I am. But I want to start off with a question, Madam Chair. Councillor Hatton mentioned 5 actually access points between Karrinyup and Erindale Road. And could I get a comment from the officers how many access points? Because there would be one on Erindale, there would be one on Karrinyup, that's obvious. Is there 3 more in the middle here? My understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, is we're suggesting 1 access, not the 2 that are proposed on top of that 1 access.
Sure, Mr. Littleton. Mr. Guillermo.
Through the chair, yes, there will be, apart from the connections at the northern end and southern end of Erindale and Karrinyup, there will be 3 connections, one at Zirinsky Court or Place, and one at Bryan Place. So those ones aren't being disputed. It's just the one in the middle at Antonio Scarfo Reserve that's being disputed.
So just to clarify, Councillor Sargent, yeah, 5, yep.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I'm sorry we're not disputing those ones, because I actually would dispute those ones. And just off the back of what Councillor Caddy was saying, the traffic along Odin is far more going north than south, obviously, but it's still a lot of traffic. And like Councillor Caddy, I actually also visited that area. I actually took a drive around there. And when I got to the reserve that we're talking about, I was the only car on the street. There was just me running around that neighbourhood. I didn't see any dogs, I didn't see any people. It was 10, 11 o'clock in the morning, maybe that's what it could explain it. But my one time there doesn't give it an example of what that street or would possibly look like. So I'm not saying that as a example, it's just working off the back of that. I would consider Odin Road and access to cyclists far more dangerous running up Odin Road to the north. When you turn into Brighton Place, you do have the Water Corporation there. They got a plant there, but at the end of it, you also got commercial. So there are trucks and whatnot running down, not only Odin, but also Brighton Place. One of the reasons why I do support the most direct route here, to me, it just came down to how many houses get affected. And there are very few houses along the particular stretch heading to the reserve, and as Councillor Caddy and the Director have stated earlier, it is a small portion of the park that has been taken up by a direct route into the cycle network of the freeway. Councillor Hatton mentioned sunsets and sunrises and all those types of things. The reality is you'll get that anywhere. I don't call that an argument generally, because if you were going north or south along Brighton Place or anywhere like that, you're still going to get a sunset, you're still going to get a sunrise. So it's not really, in my mind, an argument to make on this particular one. Like Councillor Caddy, I have actually been to Copenhagen. And Copenhagen is a city that they set up as a neutral-free city, and the way they did that was they focused on cyclists and walking, getting from A to B. And one of the ways they did that was main stretches. They prioritised cycling. And to their effort, they're one of the very few cities in the world where more people ride a bike. Maybe it's the culture of the Dutch, but more people ride a bike than actually the roads. And you can see the difference when they prioritise it. So cycling for the most direct route, in my mind, actually makes sense. It will more than likely have cyclists travel that way rather than going north or south. So I do not support the recommendation on the board, Madam Chair. I would support an alternate motion that supports the officers, what they were trying to say.
Would you like to foreshadow
Yes.
that motion? Okay, thank you. Councillor Mcdowell?
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor, Acting Mayor. I'm not really sure which order that's supposed to go in. Firstly, may I say that I will miss the robust debate, Councillor Caddy. Very, very sad to see you retiring. Secondly, might I add, one duck is one duck too many. Shh, please. Allow me to speak. Please allow me to speak, Councillor. Now, in this instance, I believe that nobody knows a local area better than the local ward councillors, whom I would defer to have an understanding of what local residents want to see in their area. So if local residents are
Councillor
voicing...
Mcdowell, just through the chair.
Yes.
Thank you.
Through the chair, if local residents are voicing that they would like to see a different route adopted, in this instance, I support them. As a councillor, we represent our residents. If this is what residents would like, it is our role to represent them through the chair. I support this and I hope you all do too. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Migdal. Councillor Lagan.
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. Can I just ask, through you to officers, can officers please indicate the predicted cycle number users that may use the proposed PSP new access on weekends and weekdays?
Mr Littleton. Mr Guillermo, please.
Through the chair, unfortunately we didn't get any modelling data from main roads. I've been able to check that the PSP carries around about 300 or 400 cyclists per day along this section, but unfortunately we don't have data to indicate how many get off and on at Odin Drive currently to be able to indicate how many would use these connections. But I mean, roughly maybe 50, 100 cyclists in total. That would probably be a ballpark figure.
Thank you, Councillor Lagan. Anything further? Okay. Councillor Farrelly.
Thank you very much, Deputy Madam Chair. I really wanted to know, first of all, if I may, through you, ask the Mr Guillemot or the Director, is this funded purely by Main Roads, this connection?
Mr Guillemot?
Yes, it is. It's entirely funded by the state government.
And secondly, have they therefore directed that this is the route that they have decided is the best one and therefore funding will not be available if it's proposed to be elsewhere?
Mr Guillemot.
The funding for the project already includes the connections at Zerinsky Court to the south and Bryan Place to the north. So there's no sort of indication of the project not being funded if this link is removed. The reason the link is there is that we've collaboratively been working with the Department of Transport and showed that as part of our long-term cycle network. That's why they've put the link there.
Okay. The reason I ask is that being a recipient as a councillor of the Manning Street cycle path, where we did have funding from the Main Roads and where I nearly got knocked off again as a cyclist riding up a hill and having a forward drive come over and with the mirror, it was about the right height for my head if I hadn't moved off into the shrubbery, which is a big, a gutter on the side as well. Look, I really wanted to say, and I concur with Councillor Migdal that, and also Councillor Lagan, that when you look at the number of cyclists that have been given to us and the community consultation, which I would say that has gone through with the two councillors involved in the area, that when you start critiquing things at 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning, and you call the Danes the Dutch in Copenhagen, you really need to be careful how you look at these things. When you are in the morning and afternoon at sunrise and sunset, I can categorically tell you that when the sun hits Manning Street and you're on a bike or in a car, you actually don't see the road ahead of you, particularly in a particular time in summer. It became quite dangerous. I actually heard the councillor across from me, Councillor Hatton, say the same thing. Now, I don't know his area day and night, but I will take his opinion greatly because it is somewhere he's very familiar with. You want people to be able to be safely in an area, in the park. You don't want speed cyclists coming through. You also don't want speed cyclists being knocked off because the car doesn't see them, or vice versa. They knock the car, and what happens then, I don't know. But this is where I think we need to take notice of community. Otherwise, we will find things will be lost for the community. And I will therefore be supporting this. I would be supporting it for a very similar reason as if it may not be a duck that gets knocked over, it might be a little child. and they might be in the park running over. Speed cyclists are speed cyclists. You don't have that opportunity to stop suddenly. The opportunities that are there available, you know, it doesn't take a lot of extra time for a speed cyclist to go that bit further or do a different route. They are used to tracks alongside busy roads. And yes, I have lived in Copenhagen for over 6 months with children, and I do understand how you can work with traffic. I also understand how when they put it in as a second gesture, it can impact on how it effectively works. I have to say, coming back 15 years or 10 years afterwards, it worked much better. They'd implemented a much better scheme in some of the side streets. I will be supporting the local councillors. Well done in getting your Member of Parliament alongside. I think that is a real pat on the back. Great to see, and congratulations on that, and I think we should support it. You've done a lot of hard work. We've had people here tonight, and we need to support the locals. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Farrelly. Councillor Proud.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That's how you do it, councillors. That covers everything. Look, I would normally defer, this is a local issue, I would normally defer to the local ward councillors. However, on this, I have to leave my road safety hat on. This is really important. It actually is not safe. This is the safest route to get through and over Oden Road. The other thing that springs to mind with this park, this actually, I think, replicates Bradley Reserve in Innaloo, which we have the Moreland Street Bicycle Boulevard coming from the City of Stirling train station right through the southern end. This one's the northern end. However, the southern end of the park to cross over Huntress, to go through to Moreland Street, and now it carries right through, third stage is completed, right to the beach. So Bradley Reserve is a very active local reserve park. I'm not actually sure of the categorised classification of this park, but would it be local access park, Mr. Quirk? Do you think?
Mr. Quirk.
From memory, this would just be a local reserve given its size and function.
Okay, so it sounds like the same classification. Bradley Reserve, very active park, very active dog community there. There's no time you would go to Bradley Reserve that you wouldn't see people, children and dogs. There's playground equipment with a shade sail, recently upgraded, drinking fountain, table setting and chairs, footpath and extra footpath gone in. There's a bicycle repair station there. So this bicycle boulevard that's coming from the station comes through Innaloo and actually goes down the back of Bradley Reserve. It's right down the boundary, exactly the same as this one that I'm looking at on the map is. It goes right through the back. Now, from memory, I didn't get out to visit this place, but, you know, looking at the aerial, the near maps, there's, I think, 4 or 5 houses that could possibly be impacted by cyclists, fast or slow, carrying on through. But I'm really sorry to the ward councillors. I would usually defer to you on this. I'm leaving my road safety hat on. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Proud. Councillor Ree.
Thank you very much. I actually think it's really important to consider the public consultation. I mean, that's after a while we're here. Public consultation is so important. Most of the public actually said, this is what we want. A lot of them probably haven't been to Copenhagen. I haven't, but that's just me. We have to look at the demographics of people. Some people don't ride bikes, some people do. But the people want this way to collectively get more people. Not necessarily speedsters, not necessarily 2-year-olds on bikes either. This is a very good idea because it actually brings the community together, and that's the point. And it's the culture of the neighbourhood, which you've got to look at the whole bigger project, which is what we're looking at. So I don't think one size fits all. I don't think the safety is definitely important, but this is actually looking at the safety, and that's why it's wider what they're suggesting. So that's also important. But I think if the community is there and they're outside there, and if it doesn't work, then they will ask things to be changed. I'm also concerned with the fact that with some of the tree loss and environmental degradation, I thought it was interesting, the comment on page 99, the reserve is well known for its wildlife and migration across pathways. The section north of the proposed path consists of residential properties only, which should not attract migration of wildlife. So just because you have a house and a backyard, you won't get any wildlife. Interesting comment. The comment raised earlier on by Moreland Road, lots of issues happen with Moreland Road, with a lot of people not happy at all, mainly because it came back to consultation, which I think has been raised several times, and unfortunately the coastal ward councillors had to get most of the umbrage of that one. So I think we've got to look at the bigger scheme of things. This, from the beginning to the end, is what the people want. They live there. If it doesn't work, it should be changed. And for the poor birds, I'm sure there's a tree in a backyard for them to go to.
Thank you, Councillor Reid. Councillor Hatton to close.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, hasn't been an interesting debate, very robust. There's some strong views either side. I think it's been good to have the debate. And again, safety has been an issue that's been raised a fair bit too. Look, in closing, I'll try to keep it very brief. David Michael, the local member, is putting a petition into Parliament tomorrow. I understand that he has already spoken to Main Roads, and Main Roads are quite happy to take this access point away, knowing that there's plenty of access points within 700 metres left and right. It's really just up to council approving or council supporting the motion. There will be no change really. It's just bringing back what we all agree with, and that is public open space is special, wetlands are special, recreation and green space for green spaces special. And it just doesn't make sense to include this one with all the others. But I do want to bring to the attention of a couple of councillors who have brought forward the safest route being the Antonio Scarfo Reserve. It actually possibly is not the safest route and possibly not the quickest. And I appreciate that some councillors have gone into our ward and had a look, because that's fantastic. And I endeavour to do that in your wards when issues come up, so that's fantastic. Maybe, Councillor Sargent, it might have been at the wrong time, not the sunsets and sunrises, but at least I do appreciate you going down, having a look to get the geographical layout, and Councillor Caddy too. Look, essentially, by entering Antonio Scarfo Reserve, the cyclists, the destination cyclists, which are really the ones to be attracted, are going to travel south. They go down Antonio Scarfo Reserve to a somewhat blind T-junction and dangerous T-junction. Then they turn right. They go north to circumnavigate a park and go around the park, nearly half a football oval, and then go south towards Karrinyup or Perth. And most of the cyclists will be going south because, quite frankly, to go north, you hit a dead end at Arundel Road and there's nothing there except a dirty underpass and scrubland, and there's nothing to go north for, possibly to get to Gwelup Shopping Centre. But I don't think the cyclists are going to be riding with their bags on their bikes and all the rest. It's destination cyclists that don't want to ride around Antonio Scarfo Reserve and then progress south. The best and safest and quickest route is to go left down Odin Drive. That only has 1,700 vehicles a day. It has one street to pass, and then you turn right and go straight down to the Zarinsky or Place new cycle access point. Probably less than 50 seconds in riding time. Or you go straight down Odin Drive and straight down to the end of Odin Drive, which most cyclists will do anyway. They probably won't even use the Orr Place cycle access. It just doesn't make sense to have one at Antonio Scarfo Reserve. So I do ask again that, that councillors respect and know that the State Member of Parliament, and yes, there's been a lot of work done with the State Member of Parliament, and being his former virtually enemy, I'm really proud that he has actually listened to his community. Really proud. Now we need to listen to the community as the local councillors. So please, I ask you to support this, and thanks for the robust debate.
Thank you, Councillor Hatton. I will now put that to the vote. Councillor Ferrante and Councillor Ree, please. Thank you. And that motion is carried. Councillors Farrelly, Ferrante, Hatton, Lagan, Migdal, Perkov, Ree, Sandry, Spagnola and Thornton. And against, Councillors Caddy, Proud and Sargent. Item 15, notice of motion for consideration at the next council meeting. Councillors, as we are currently in election caretaker period, there are no motions to be raised. Item 16, questions by members of which due notice has been given. There is nil. 17, new business of an urgent nature. There is nil. 18, matters behind closed doors. There is nil. And 19, closure. I now declare the meeting closed at 8:52 p.m. Thank you. Good night, everyone at home.
Happy birthday.